So I just got out of Hereditary, and I'm not entirely sure how to describe it. And I don't know what to say about it. The first thing I will say is this movie is 100% not for everyone. I kind of figured that was going to be the case going into it. I didn't think it was going to be a run-of-the-mill horror movie. I knew, especially based on the studio producing it, that it was going to be kind of weird. I expected it to be weird in a way that it didn't end up being weird. I thought it was going to be weird in a different way, honestly. But if you think this is gonna be like a typical jump scare style movie or some kind of like major supernatural style movie, this is not the movie this is not the movie that you're looking for. So like without any spoilers, if you didn't like the witch or the Vivitch, maybe don't go see it. So when I got out of the showing, there was a pretty mixed audience. I think some people really liked it, but then a lot of people were, as I expected on a Friday night, be younger, expecting some kind of paranormal experience type thing, expecting some kind of more run-of-the-mill jump scare horror movie, and they didn't get it, they didn't like it, and some of it to them probably felt a little bit silly. I honestly feel that this movie is a two-time watcher. I don't know if I'm gonna want to spend money to see it again in theaters, so I might wait until it comes out on like Netflix or just available for rent or something like that. I might wait to watch it again. But I really feel like this is something that I would benefit from seeing a second time. And I'm sure I'm gonna wake up tomorrow being like, man, I wanna see this. Because even post watching it, I'm thinking back to things that happened earlier in the movie and how it tied into things that happened later in the movie. I will say that I'm not really a fan of how the thing wrapped up in the end. I was kind of hoping for a different style ending. And if you wanna stick around for the more spoilery stuff, you can feel free to do that. If you're not planning on seeing it or if you don't really care about that kind of stuff, I'll get into it a little bit more at the end. But my expectations, I kind of went into with not many expectations, but as the movie's going, I was expecting it to go a different way. And obviously then it did something else. So this is gonna be one of those really divisive movies. If you're talking to people about it, you're probably gonna see a lot of people saying that it was boring, other than a couple of jump moments. It was like uninteresting to a lot of people. A lot of people are probably gonna say it was stupid, and that's totally their right. This is definitely not a movie for everyone. I wouldn't even say it's 100% a movie for me. I don't regret having seen it, and I do want to watch it again, but I will say it's not a movie for everyone. The performances in it, though, are fantastic. I think that is something that really pulls it together nicely. If this had just been a run-of-the-mill drama, it probably would have been like it honestly probably would have been an Academy Award nominated drama, because the performances that every single person in this movie gives is absolutely stunning. I'll touch a little bit more on specifics later on, but there's this like relationship issue with the mother and the son, and there's just this like these moments of a power, like not a full power struggle, but just it's how they go back and forth, and it's just so amazing. And there's this one scene with the son that I literally had to like my hand went to my mouth. I was like, oh my goodness. Like there's a lot of really crazy moments like that, and a lot of just beautifully acted scenes that I think really, really speak well for the movie. Lots of interesting cinematography tricks, things that I'm just noticing as I'm thinking about it, things that I kind of missed on first watch that I'm seeing other people mentioning, because usually when I finish a movie, I'll go through like the Reddit movie threads, especially if it's something like this that I know people have seen it at Sundance and are now seeing it again, that it's in theaters. They're getting that second viewing, so they're looking out for things they thought they might have seen. So I'm just getting clarification, and I feel it's gonna be one of those movies. It's gonna be a movie that people are gonna be combing through little details, finding little things through the movie, and then giving them out to the masses. So for the basic non-spoiler stuff, this movie is definitely not for everyone. If you're expecting just a standard paranormal style movie, or a more run-of-the-mill jump scare horror movie, this is not going to be for you at all. It is a very slow burn early on. Something happens at like the 40-minute mark, I think. Then it just probably 40, and it's just literally probably one of the most shocking things I've seen on screen in a really long time. So for stuff like that, if you're into performances and you're into kind of more artsy stuff, this is definitely the movie for you. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the closest thing, you liked the Witch, and I think it's actually the same studio. Yeah, A24, it's the same studio. If you like that, you'll probably like this. But I think that a direction this one was going in was really interesting, and I'd like to see more of it in the future. All right, so now getting into a few more spoilery type things, starting now. So I thought that this movie was gonna be a little bit more related to mental health issues specifically. I really thought that I didn't think it was going to be a 100% like oh, it's like an allegory for mental illness. I thought that the mental illnesses were actually going to like amp things up. And yes, I'm drinking because holy crap. I get that it would have been a little bit on the nose, but I really thought that the title Hereditary was going to link to the fact that, like, even though it seemed like paranormal things were going on, it really was just linked to this family's like long-standing history of mental illness. And that basically anything happening to the characters could be linked back to that. You know, you have moments of high tension, high stress, that's going to make somebody's mental illnesses be a little bit more on edge. That's going to make those things come forward. It's just, that's how it works. When you get, a lot of the times when mental illnesses start presenting themselves is when people are undergoing extreme periods of stress in their life. Okay, so I'm just in the process of editing this video right now, and I realize that I make it sound like I don't think that there's like any kind of mental health component or any tie to the title Hereditary. Like, obviously there is some mental health components thrown in here. I just thought it was going to be a lot more in your face about it. I thought it was really going to focus centrally on that. But I do realize that the title Hereditary is just like this, it's an overall thing of the demons, of the negative traits, of the things that get passed on to us, that of the demons, you know, not necessarily the literal demons, but the figurative demons, and just the things that get passed on to us from generation to generation. So I realized that that is a thing, and I didn't want you guys to think that I didn't realize that. I was just saying I thought it was going to go in a different direction. Now, this movie does something really well with the bait and switch. In the trailers, you are definitely 100% led to believe that Charlie, the girl, is going to be the main antagonist, or that most of the central conflict is going to be related to her. And in a way it is, but at the 40-minute mark of this movie, the mom makes the brother take her to a party. She ends up going into anaphylactic shock. He tries to rush her to a hospital. She, gasping for breath, starts putting her head out the window to try to like inhale more oxygen, because obviously your brain's not working. You're like fresh air even though your throat's closed off. He has to swerve in the road to avoid hitting a dead deer carcass or animal carcass on the road. And then she hits her head off a lamppost. And then we find out that she got decapitated. And that whole scene right there is literally when the movie just kind of goes, it's like, oh, this is a slow burn movie. That's fine. I'm good with slow burn movies. To like, you've just been smacked in the face. My hand, I'm not joking. I literally had my hand. It hit me. It hit me hard. It was, and I know that was the purpose of it, but it was like, holy crap. And then he has this moment where he like starts looking in the rear view mirror and then just very quickly looks back forward and just won't look back. And he's just slowly processing everything and then just drives home and then goes to bed. And then it's not till the next morning that the mom goes out to use the car that she sees the decapitated body. And then it cuts back to the kid's head being eaten by ants. Holy shit. So like that scene alone, when that happened, I was like, here we go. Amped up. Where's this going? Because when the whole movie's happening, you think that the only death that occurred is the death of the main characters, of Toni Collette's mother, of the mom's mom. Basically, you think that that's the central death, but then the family immediately gets racked with the death of the daughter. And then what starts happening is that, you know, the mother specifically mentions that the family's had a history of mental illness. She says that, you know, the mom had dissociative identity disorder, that her brother hung himself because he said that the mom put voices in his head, and that the dad ended up starving himself. So there's this like definite history of mental illness that's presented to us as the viewers. And then it starts getting into like, oh, they have a seance, and you think that that is leading to a paranormal side of things. And then it goes crazy. So I thought that they were gonna make it so that the mother, the main character, Toni Collette's character, also had dissociative identity disorder or had some kind of extreme like schizophrenia as well. And she was the grief of dealing with both the loss of her mother, even though she wasn't close to her, and then the loss of her daughter was making her see things, was making her have all these like terrible reactions that she thought was real, and therefore we are presented as the audience as it being real. And then obviously the son, being genetically linked to her, would also be dealing with issues of his own as she's causing more tension in the house, because that's what happens. He's obviously ridiculously stressed and traumatized because he killed his sister, and then the mom starts being extra crazy. So you think, okay, well maybe that's why he's seeing all of this shit now too. And then they pull the card. I thought it was gonna be, like I said, a very mental illness driven type movie, kind of like The Babadook is, but a little bit more heightened. And then it turns out it's a cult. It's a cult specifically that is trying to, I think it's, I always want to say Paimon, but I think it's Paimon. Paimon, the god, basically the 8th god of hell or something, and that this is it's a cult. It's a cult, and I believe that the general idea is that the grandmother originally tried putting the god into her own son, and then it doesn't work, or he kills himself before it happens, because he's obviously, all this crazy shit starts happening to him, so he kills himself before they can complete it. And then there's a specific mention that when Toni Collette's character, the mom, gets pregnant, she doesn't let her mom anywhere near her, so they can't do whatever like culty stuff they wanted to do to him. So I guess out of guilt, she's like, but then I let her back into my life when, you know, my daughter was being born. And then that's when she specifically mentions, like, she wouldn't let me anywhere near her. She wouldn't even let me feed her. So it's like little things they mentioned early on that you think is just like an obsessed grandparent, which is actually like, no, they're prepping her for a ritual. And early on, the kid, her name's Charlie, says she wanted me to be a boy, like right after the funeral. And that plays out later that apparently this god needs a male host, or this god flourishes with a male host. So they basically set up this poor friggin' kid, Peter, the son, to be re-inhabited by the dead sister so that she can become the god. And that's how it ends. And it's really cool when you notice little subtle things about how like the cult members were watching the entire time. Like there's this moment where he's like smoking weed and blows the smoke out the window, and then like smoke is also being blown in his direction from outside, so somebody's watching them. And then you find out, hey, it's been the cult members the entire time. And then all this weird stuff happens. Like the last like 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes of the movie is where it like really amps up to the point that it's like that's where people thought it was silly. And I wanted it to be more of a mental health thing, and it ended up being a cult. I'm not against movies with stuff like this, with cults and rituals, but I don't know. I really like mental health related stuff too. But it's not that this was bad. I definitely want to see it again to see how some of the smaller things link together. So like I said, if you're a fan of something like The Witch, The Vivitch, you might really enjoy this. But it's definitely not for everyone. It's definitely a slow burn. I can understand why a lot of people think it's silly, but it's really just the care that they went into little tiny details. If you notice things that are said early on, how it ties into other things. If you notice that when she's going through trying to find some stuff in her mom's boxes, she finds those embroidered doormats, and that the one that's Charlie's has the symbols for Paimon embroidered in it. So that's been the plan all along for years to have this happen. So very interesting, definitely an interesting concept. And I think the fact that the actors did such an amazing job really helped this movie in the long run. But I don't fully know if it was for me. I do want to see it again just to see how certain things piece together. I can understand why some people are really into this, but if you saw it, let me know what you think. If you haven't seen it, let me know if you're interested in seeing it. I hope I didn't ruin anything for you. But like I said, it's worth it alone to see the performances, whether you wait for like a Netflix release or something like that. It's definitely unique. If you're just the type, if you like seeing all sorts of movies, it can't hurt. I would probably recommend seeing it maybe an afternoon showing, because you'll probably be less likely to deal with teenagers who are probably going to have the most negative reactions to it. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all later.